Welcome to the Shake Up Learning Show, where it's all about shaking up your old static lessons and blending tried and true instructional strategies with the power of technology to create dynamic learning experiences for your students. Whether you're a newbie or a tech expert, you're guaranteed to walk away with new ideas and strategies you can use in class tomorrow. And now here's your host, that sassy Southern belle and EdTech expert, Casey Bell.
What's shaking, y'all? Welcome to episode 18 of the Shake Up Learning Show. Today, we're talking about a pet peeve of mine. Let's just say this is a question I get almost daily, and the question itself just kind of pushes me the wrong way because most of the time, it's not exactly something that follows my own educational philosophies. Yes, I know you really want to know how to put your worksheet into Google Classroom, but first, let's take a step back. Take a deeper look at the purpose of your assignment, the power of G Suite, and how you can go beyond substitution and just a static worksheet. So that's what we're chatting about in this episode. I hope you will stay tuned. And yes, I am actually going to give you some tools for those of you who do truly have some great PDFs that you want to put into Google Classroom.
This is Dr. Sheldon L. Akins, host of the Leading Equity Podcast and a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Just like the show you're listening to right now, the opinions expressed are those of each individual host. For more great podcasts, visit edupodcastnetwork.com. And get ready because the learning begins in 3, 2, 1.
Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Jennifer Earls and Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky. I just visited this wonderful little hamlet and presented at their technology conference at Murray State University, and it was a fantastic day. The teachers were amazing. Some teachers drove really far just to be there, and I appreciate that so much. And it was just an honor to share my passions and to share all of the resources that I can to help support teachers. So if you're interested in bringing Shake Up Learning to your next event, be sure you visit our show notes at shakeuplearning.com/18 and look for the Work With Me link. Next up, we have a SpeakPipe question from the Shake Up Learning community. So this one comes to us from Coralie Mooney, who is in Kuwait. So I am blown away by the fact that someone could be listening to this podcast in another country, let alone way far away in Kuwait. So take it away, Coralie.
Hi, Casey. My name is Coralie Mooney, and I'm leaving this message from Kuwait. And you know what I was thinking? Wouldn't it be great to get some kids on who have done something amazing, like podcasts, for example, or I don't know, just to hear the voice of students. I think that would be really cool. So I love your podcast, and I'm taking the Google certification program, and I'm really enjoying that. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for this question. You know, we have had student interviews on this podcast before, and we even have an application for others to get on the show and share the amazing things that they are doing in their classrooms. So be sure that if you haven't already listened, to go back to episode 7, where I chat with an amazing 5th grader. Her name is Camden, and she is from South Carolina, and she's not only got some super Southern manners, but she's doing some amazing things in her classroom. And coming in August, I believe it'll be episode 23, I am scheduled to share another student interview, which I've already recorded, but will come out in August with Ainsley McClard. And she's a 6th grader from Missouri who is also just going to blow you away with some of the awesome things that she is doing and sharing and creating. So If you're interested in being on the podcast for various reasons, if you have your own student or maybe your own child who's also a student that you think would make a great guest for the podcast, please go to our show notes at shakeuplearning.com/18 and look for the link to the student application. Of course, if they're under 18, we're going to need parent permission, but there's some information there to get us started so we can connect and find some great students to have on the podcast. I also do on-air coaching episodes. If you haven't caught one of those, be sure you look for the brackets that say on-air coaching in our list of podcast episodes. But there's also a link in our show notes to apply to be in an on-air coaching episode, which are super powerful, amazing, love it, and can't wait to get some more amazing teachers on this podcast. So thank you so much for your question, Coralie. And you yourself can also leave a shout out, a question, or share an idea, just like Coralie, by going to our show notes and looking for the little microphone button to leave your own voice message. This episode of the Shake Up Learning Show is sponsored by Pear Deck, the tool that helps you supercharge student engagement. With Pear Deck, you can take any Google Slides presentation, add interactive questions, or embed websites directly into your lesson. And then you can send it to student devices so they can participate in real time while you present. And now, y'all, Pear Deck has teamed up with none other than Google on the Be Internet Awesome program, which is a free digital citizenship curriculum to help kids learn how to be safe and more confident explorers online. The basic version of Pear Deck is free, y'all, and it's awesome. But as a listener of the Shake Up Learning Show, you can now get a complimentary 60-day trial of Pear Deck Premium with no credit card required. And this will give you access to features like the teacher dashboard, personalized takeaways, and more. Head over to peardeck.com/shakeuplearning now to learn more. Okay, y'all, let's jump into our topic today. How to put a worksheet in Google Classroom is the question of the day. It's the question of the year. It's the question I see posted in more Facebook groups probably than anything else. And a lot of times that question can mean many different things. But while I get this question almost daily, I want to help teachers in any way that I can. So sometimes just giving them a quick answer may not actually be helpful at all. So I've had this podcast and blog post sort of brewing in my mind for the last couple of years and trying to figure out how to address the philosophical issues with the question, or just trying to better understand what teachers need help with. Usually, this question really means, how do I put a PDF inside Google Classroom so my students can write on top of it? So that could mean a lot of different things depending on what you teach and what kind of files you're working with. Don't worry. If you want the easy answer and to simply ignore the soapbox part of this episode, I will tell you how to actually do this technically at the end of this episode. So the term worksheet or worksheets or packets has really become a bad word in a lot of education circles. You know, it's just got a bad connotation. When we say worksheet, people are typically thinking of some really bad types of worksheets. Worksheets, packets can all mean different types of work to different types of teachers. So Jennifer Gonzalez from the Cult of Pedagogy did a wonderful post and podcast on the topic called Frickin' Packets. If I would say, I would say frickin' packets, y'all, right? So her post was inspired by a YouTube video where a high school student here in Texas, tells his teacher that if you want students to get excited about learning and touch their hearts, stop giving frickin' packets. And his point, however disruptive it was to the class, was actually kind of poignant. And when you look at this from a bigger picture, when you're thinking about the things that you're doing in your classroom, when we're talking about learning, we're talking about engagement, we're talking about getting students creating and using all of those 4 C's, we have to kind of dig a little bit deeper. So, as I have confessed many times, and in fact, literally confessed inside an auditorium in Kentucky last week, packets and worksheets were a mainstay in my classroom for the first few years. And that's something I truly regret. I am ashamed that I gave my students busy work so that I could finish grades or other tasks that we all know pile up on a teacher's desk. I taught the way I was taught. And in my own ignorance, I blindly followed the lead of more seasoned teachers on my campus. I didn't know that I was doing a disservice to my students. So when I'm asked this question, I don't like to give the quick fix answer. I follow this up with another question. What are you teaching? What are your learning goals? Then that will give me an opportunity to discuss alternative assignments that can make the learning more dynamic for students. If your goal is to teach students how to complete an acrostic, great. But I am yet to see that defined in any standard. If your goal is to teach students how to fill in the blank from a word bank, great. But I am yet to see that defined in any standard. But